Good day, Saitlanders. How are you? We trust that you are well. Today is Friday, the 26th of April, and this is Saitlanders Week in Review. The past week has been nothing short of action-packed. Last weekend, we learned that the French had sent troops into Ukraine, that they had boots on the ground in Odessa. We know that various countries have been sending troops in and pretending that they're mercenaries acting completely independently of the state. We know of the two groups of Polish aircraft missile technicians that were destroyed by the Russians. We by now have tons of anecdotal evidence, enough for us to say that where there's smoke, there's a fire. Anecdotal evidence of American, British, Polish, and many other nations in the Ukraine. But it was big news for us to hear that something like 1,000 French soldiers went in with all of their equipment at once. And that was followed by the USA, the Congress, approving another aid package to Ukraine, one of $61 billion. It's to be shared between Taiwan, Israel, and Ukraine, but the lion's share is going to Ukraine. It will make no difference. Russia is winning this war. Some people are very quick to say, yes, but why is it taking them so long? Wars are not over and done with as rapidly as some armchair observers might wish, especially when you're on somebody else's territory, and especially when you fight the way that the Russians are renowned, are famous for doing, for grinding away at an opposing army until there's nothing left of it, and then swooping in. Not swooping in spectacular maneuvers as we may think of, such as the German blitzkrieg of the Second World War. No, the other way around. Of course, now that we see the Ukrainian front lines collapsing, the Russians have taken scores of villages in recent weeks. And the word collapse is being used left, right, and center by the best commentators. NATO has to dash in to shore up the defenses. However, we can't help but ask the question, where does that leave NATO on the question of Article 5 of the NATO Treaty? NATO, of course, stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And Article 5 of that treaty stipulates that NATO should go to the defense of any NATO member that is being attacked. And some commentators are saying, well, if your sovereign territory is not being attacked, in other words, if the Russians fight the French or any other country that may send troops into Ukraine, does that trigger, they use the word trigger, Article 5? And as I say, commentators are saying, no, it only counts if it's in their sovereign territory. But what if the French, Americans, British, whoever, execute some sabotage in Russia, as they have done on many occasions over the past 2 years. And Russia retaliates by perpetrating sabotage on the territory of those countries. Does that mean that they can, if they wish, trigger Article 5? It is a very big matter that is escalating tremendously at this time. Speaking of Russia, it is now becoming accepted that what Suidlanders warned concerning Russia and the MK party, we weren't the first, but I think that we were the first to give credence to the video and the article by Andrei Pinar about the MK party being funded by the Russian GRU, which is the Military Intelligence Directorate. Now it's becoming kind of mainstream. Many people are talking about it. And the important thing to note here is that if the MK party is funded by GRU, then Russia is interfering in South African elections. It's just as simple as that. There's no discussion. Which begs the question, for how long and in what manner have they been interfering hitherto? And the question, why? There are two possible theories. The one I'm not going to elaborate on because I think that it might be contentious to some people. But I put it to you that this could be in retaliation for the enormous diplomatic blunder that the African National Congress made when they forbade Vladimir Putin from attending his own BRICS summit meeting in Johannesburg last year. I think it's safe to say that that would have left Vladimir Putin absolutely fuming at the level of betrayal by the African National Congress of its historical relationship with Russia, particularly in its former guise of the Soviet Union. And one can't help but wonder if this doesn't provide us with the explanation to the 2020 riots in Natal. You will recall that Suidlanders, particularly those of you who are on our leadership WhatsApp groups, that at the time, Suidlanders was by a country mile the first to point out that elements of the riots didn't make sense if the explanation for the riots was a spontaneous, unled uprising in defense of Jacob Zuma. There was an element to the riots that was orchestrated, that was done in concert, and that appeared to reveal or show signs of, firstly, premeditation, and secondly, the premeditation of somebody who knew what they were doing. Lo and behold, some months later, the Daily Maverick produced, I believe it was a 3-part series of articles exposing the Durban riots or the Natal riots as a coordinated event. But they didn't provide an answer to the obvious question of who coordinated this. Was it intelligence services loyal to Jacob Zuma? Or could it have been the real Mambas, the real masters, the Russians? And I put it to you that the answer is obvious. If Jacob Zuma has been a GRU agent since forever, as it were, as Andre Pienaar claimed, very persuasively, he clearly knows what he's talking about, then it stands to some level of reason. It's the key that fits the door. You can say as much as you like, yes, but we don't know conclusively that this key is the one for that lock. We don't know for sure, and well, I don't think that it should be. But if you put it in the lock, it turns smoothly, it opens the lock, and you can open the door. That is to say, if you can make a sound intellectual assessment of that matter using this key or this code or this trick, what more do you want? I'm going to let you into a little secret, which I didn't intend doing. It's a sort of an ace up the sleeve. Very, 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 very few people know about this. But if you'd like to see, I beg your pardon, but it is, we are living in a clown world. If you would like to see the GRUs, the Russian Military Intelligence website for South Africa, visit amandla.site123.me. I apologize, but I can barely stop myself from laughing. The thought of how gulled we are, gekul, the root, the commonality of the two words is obvious. How tricked we are, how deceived we are, how beguiled we are. We really are in a lot of trouble, I think. So visit that website. We'll put a link in the description below. And go and have a look for yourself. It's marvelous. It's absolutely marvelous. And it's very popular. When I say very popular, very, very, very few people know about it. But it is popular in certain revolutionary circles. And it's extremely entertaining. Which brings me to, I suppose, the Roland de Vries video of 2 days ago. Yeah. I suppose that what is most worth mentioning is the number of views that video has gotten. By South African standards, and by that channel's standards, it has done spectacularly well, which reveals the degree and the extent to which people who watch South African videos on YouTube are willing to give credence to the notion of impending violent crisis in South Africa. If he had said precisely what he said in that interview 2 years ago, the last time I looked, which was a day and a half ago, it had 77,000 views. I must assume it's now gotten close to 100,000 views. If he had conducted the same interview, that 77,000 views would have been under 50,000 guaranteed. If he conducted it before the 2021 riots, that video would not have attracted 15,000 views. And I think therein is the most valuable lesson of that video. The fact that so many people now are willing to listen to somebody say that this country could go up in flames. We've seen videos of African National Congress politicians promising that if the ANC gets in, it is going to put through the National Health Insurance Act bill, whereby there will be one pool of funds for all of South Africa's citizens to share exactly the same medical services. Meaning that if you are poor and you have no health insurance, and you know that the African National Congress cannot run a hospital, you can go to Mediclinic Sandton and demand to be treated for free at the government's expense. That is to say, you get the treatment at no charge to you then and there, the government to pay later on the basis of a set tariff rate. Punctured lung, heart attack, heart bypass surgery, heart transplant, each one to have a predetermined cost associated with it. It will be the death, the utter death of South Africa's medical industry. And I put it to you that it is deliberate. It is intended to crush South Africa's medical industry as part of the National Democratic Revolution, specifically the part of the National Democratic Revolution pertaining to the eradication of colonialism of a special type, which we have discussed previously. Last but not least today, ladies and gentlemen, Eskom's power supply has been very reliable in recent weeks, as you know. But today, it has been revealed by businesstech.co.za that what lies behind it is not that all of the power stations are working well, but that the open cycle gas turbines, they're like a motor car engine. You put diesel in and run it that way. I'm oversimplifying. Which are only meant to be used in times of emergency, such as when there's a shortfall, the power station is gone offline, or there's some phenomenal spike in electricity consumption, let's say, for instance, during a soccer World Cup over a month, are running day and night. In 2020, Eskom spent 5.8 billion rand on diesel for the open cycle gas turbine power plants. In 2021, 5.75, so practically the same amount. In 2022, 8.6 billion. Then, in early 2023, February, I believe, Henri de Ruyter resigned. And in 2023, it went from the 8.6 billion of the previous year to 21.25 billion rand. In 2024, we're now at roughly the end of April. January, February, March, April. 4 of 12 is 1/3. We are 1/3 of the way through the year, and we have spent Eskom has spent 23.38 billion rand. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this video by saying to you, hier kom groot perde. This is going to end very, very badly. May you have a lovely weekend and rejoice. May you rejoice in the fact that you are a Suidlander in these times. You have a level of solace, no matter how low it may be. You may be a Suidlander in some far-flung part of the country, heavily populated part of the country, and you may spend your life wondering how easy it's going to be to get out, how dangerous. I know that. I know that for some people it's very scary out there. But just imagine how much more scary it is for those people who have no plan, no ray of hope, no contingency in which they can hope. So I wish you everything of the best. Goodbye, and God bless everybody.